Good morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome to Morning Intentions. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, and we are back.
We are back. That was such an unusual experience. We've never had that since we started podcasting.
No, I can't remember the last time the power was off for that long.
We had planned, we had such a busy day, and we said, okay, at the end of the day, we're going to make our podcast. Never thought that we wouldn't have power in the podcasting studio and all around. We would have tried to improvise if it wasn't a widespread outage and then no internet. So we're back today. And I do have to say, though, you did a nice little summary of what we had talked about last week and encouraged us all to continue with the intention that we made over the weekend. And I did that. And I thought about, well, what about that inner calling? What about self-forgiveness? And it was helpful to me to have a little extra time to soak that in. And as I was reviewing the topics that we talked about last week, Ada, before we get into what we have prepared for this week, I wanted to talk with you about slowing down.
That is so important, especially since it is counter to hustle culture. Hustle culture is go, 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 fast, fast, fast. You got to do it today, and if you don't do it today, you're left behind. You just got to keep going. All gas, no brakes.
Okay, yes. And what I wanted to talk about...
You don't seem so impressed,
well,
but
yes,
that's how it feels.
There is the all gas, no brakes, but there's also, even if we're not rushing around, I'm not sure that as a culture, we take time to think through our decisions. Remember when we had a whole month on our 8-step decision process and many of our clients said, well, I really liked that month, but 8 steps is a lot of steps. We soaked that in. We always are open to feedback. And we didn't think there was a step that we could eliminate.
Actually, I want to add a step.
I know you do, and I say, no, 8 steps is enough.
Probably could get it to 10 if I tried.
I know you could, but I do think with our 8-step decision process, remember that the first step is to determine your desired outcome for your life. That's a way of saying know your why for your life. And that's big. And we went through that last year. I think it's so important, especially in our current climate as a culture. We're stressed, we're divided, we're tired, we don't feel safe. No matter who you are, you don't know if whatever word you're going to say is going to upset the person next to you. It's exhausting to continue to rush. And what I've noticed as a coach, yes, but I'm talking about on the grander scheme. We take action many times in our life without thinking through the consequences. Typically, we make decisions without doing our research, without looking at all the different angles. We had a beautiful session last week with one of our dearest couples, and they were willing to take time to have a discussion with us about what their why was. They weren't really sure about what their why was in a certain situation that they were in. And they were willing to take the time to think about their why, to share their different perspectives on their why. I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I wish everyone in the world would be as careful and as intentional with deciding what our why is in all the different situations that we find ourselves in. Because if I'm making a decision about one thing and I know my why, and if I'm making a decision about another thing and I know my why, and if I understand the needs that are most important to my life, and if I'm clear about my top 5 or 6 values, my why will be easier for me to get to, and I won't be as impulsive. We hear all the time in our job, but I just notice people are being very impulsive about, let's say, renting office space. Can be very impulsive about that. Or deciding on a career, not really knowing their why, just, well, I guess I have to do this. Like we talked about the guy whose family was dentists, and he said that he really wanted to go into business. Well, he was intentional. He thought about that since he was a little kid, but that's so rare. As a community here, I want us to know that it's okay to take a while to make a decision. It's okay to take a few hours to understand what is my why in this certain decision that I'm making. And these aren't life-changing decisions. They can be, do I want to do X? And if I do want to do X, why do I want to do X? As we do this work, and this week we wanted to talk about, well, if I don't know my why, how do I get there anyway? What do I do now? I don't know my why. So that's going to be our focus this week. Well, I wanted to start out with, and it's because of what happened yesterday. I had time to think about it. And I thought to myself, it's okay. It's okay to take an extra day to soak some of this stuff in. It's okay to take an extra month to make a decision if it's a big decision. It's okay to have a session with us, or to sit down with your partner, or to discuss with your best friend. Why am I going to do what I'm going to do? What is my why? And not feel rushed. We're always so rushed. That's why that hustle culture, I think, resonated with so many of us, myself included. But we don't have to rush. And I wanted to share that today to remind all of us that in order to make effective and well thought out decisions, determining our desired outcome, which is our first step, we have to know our why.
I'm right there with you. And I said during that month of decision making that we covered last year that when a decision feels like it needs to be rushed, you're given a limited amount of time, you got to make that decision today. I've just gotten to the point where I default, it's probably not a good decision. If I can't think about it, and if I can't take all the time I need to think about it, it's probably not something I want to stick with long term. Like that's not a decision I want to make. That's my personal opinion. That's my personal mode of operation. Other people will be different, but I do encourage everyone to think like me, at least a little bit. Give it some time. And if it's not something where you get a lot of time, think, is this really the best decision for me?
And also, is it the best decision if other people are involved in our decision? Let's say you're going to buy a car. If other people are going to be driving the car, is this the car that they want? Do I need to take time to get their input? What we see as coaches and what I see in life is people don't take the time. For some reason, we all think that everything needs to be rushed. Now, there are life and death situations where it's a health crisis and we need to make a decision right away.
Right. Those are different than what we're talking about.
Completely. But if we're making any other decision, allowing ourselves to think it through, giving ourselves enough time to think about all the parameters and all the ramifications of making this certain decision, and then if it involves someone else, to make sure that we get their input too, we will feel peace. Once that decision is made, doesn't make the decision sometimes any easier, but there'll be something inside that feels peaceful. We talked about that. Don't just skip over that part. When we take the time to make an informed decision, we will have some sort of peace. And I say some sort of because many decisions are difficult where we might be thinking, well, I wish I didn't even have to make this decision. But since I do have to make this decision and I got input from other people and I gave it some time to settle within myself, and I do feel peace, even if it's difficult, we need to make sure that we allow time enough for ourselves to feel peace. And then, as I said, if the decision affects other people, we want them to be able to get to a place where they feel peace also. We can't rush a lot of this stuff.
No, we can't. And I have some opinions about that I'd love to share tomorrow.
That sounds great.
But It's not tomorrow, it's still today. So our intention for today is I will give myself time to make decisions to ensure they line up with my why. I will give myself time to make decisions to ensure that they line up with my why. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you tomorrow.
See you then.